not that you'd know, but I just did a whole video for like, I don't know, 10 minutes. And I felt really good at the end and then realised I hadn't pressed start properly. And for anyone who knows me, particularly my family, they know I do that on a very regular basis, and it's always at vital points in time that are not repeatable that I think that I videoed it and I haven't. Yeah. So this one wasn't vital and I can repeat it, but who knows what I'm going to say this time. I was wanting to talk about choice, the power of choice. And when we were at Tierra Mística in Peru, this was like one of probably the biggest lessons that we learned, or I learned, I think everyone learned. So each day we would come into this little room that, it was tiny, they've built a bigger one since then, and it had like mesh at one end kind of thing, so the fresh air came in and there was a river below us and all the trees, and every afternoon you could see the blue morpho butterflies just woo, woo, woo. They were incredible. They would fly around in the afternoons and it was just magic, although being in that space was not always magic. It was actually one of the toughest spaces I had ever been in, and all the people going there, we thought doing ayahuasca was going to be the tough thing, but it wasn't. Not by a long shot. Doing the actual retreat with Mekes was so hard, so hard. It was so confrontational. It was like doing 20 years of therapy in 10 days without any ethics. In a way, like he cared for us, but he went places and dug in and nailed us, literally nailed us on areas where we were squirming until, and he held us in that point of intense uncomfortableness until we either chose to see ourselves in a true light, to actually see how we had chosen to become a victim to our circumstances and blame where we were in life on everything around us, on our family, our upbringing, the country we lived in, the politicians, the schooling system, our partners, our siblings, our children, our parents, our grandparents, where we were just unbeknownst to us, because we're so steeped in it, that the stories we would tell about ourselves were based on all these things where we were the victim of all these circumstances, the jobs we were in, the things we had to do. And yeah, we had all these chairs around the outside of the room, enough for one for each of us, and one was a red chair. I think it was red, black, red, and that would be the chair where the person was in, and that would be the person Mekes would interact with. And it was either by default you ended up in that chair if you didn't get in quick enough, or he chose who would sit there, and predominantly he chose who would sit there. And no one else was allowed to speak or interrupt or fidget or anything for hours and hours and hours, or however long it took, while Mekes engaged whoever was on the chair. And boy, was it an intense time, and it made me realise we predominantly, well, me, I don't know if it's everyone, but you want to feel comfortable in life. You avoid discomfort, and for me particularly, you avoid emotional confrontation and pain and angst, and you just like avoid it. And far out, you could not avoid it in this. You could not avoid it. But we all learned from every person who was in the chair. We all learned, because by being the person observing, you could actually see what was going on. But if you're in the chair and you're defending yourself and your choices you've made and the way of life you've lived, and you cannot literally see how you have just shifted all the blame onto circumstances and other people. And so one of the most powerful lessons I learned there was the moment you own up to your own shit and take responsibility for your own life and the decisions you've made and for how you have responded to your environment, to the people around you, to your job. We all have the power of choice. And the minute you own up and see your role that you've played, then you're taking the power back into your own hands, because then you can go, okay, I have done all these things. I have been the perpetrator and the victim and all these things, and I see that now. But now that I've taken ownership of it, I have the power of choice. And I choose not to behave in that way anymore. I choose not to walk that path. I choose not to be triggered by those things anymore. But if you are continually in victimhood or the perpetrator, if you truly don't see yourself and the roles you play and the blame you lay on everything around you and the people around you, you're not in your power. And when you're not in your power and your sovereignty, you are unable to choose. You're unable to change your life. So, God, it was crazy. Some people would be on that chair for hours and hours, and other people for days and days and days. It was crazy. Oh my God. Anyone listening who has been there and done it, you know what I mean. Far out. But you had to get to the point where you could see things as they truly were, or you're allowed to leave, or you got kicked out. But oh my God. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that for today. But I want to encourage you to observe in your life where you're laying the blame, where you're being the victim, and observe it and take ownership of it, and realize that you are in choice. You've chosen to be the victim or the perpetrator, and as you see that and own your own shit, then you have the power to change it. But it's a key step. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm just remembering all the feelings and the emotions of being there. It was crazy. Fuck. Okay. That's it. I'm going to leave it there. Hope you have a good day, people. Sending love. Mwah.